alive! It's alive! It's alive!
I want to play a game.
Hello and welcome to the Sounds from the Grave podcast. My name is Yussef.
And my name is Vania.
And working in a mirror factory is something I can see myself doing.
So, hi guys. Welcome to Spooky October season, whatever you want to label this. I mean, we celebrate it all year round, right?
Yeah.
So, we celebrate it all year round, which is now we're going to actually, I don't feel like we've delved a lot into the HHN content. Right now we're going into actual newer content that has actually come out to us.
Yeah, because I think we should I want to do HHN maybe after the season ends and just do a quick thing on that. But at the same time, we do want to say why we were gone for 2 weeks for two reasons. One, we live in Florida. There was a shitty hurricane that we had to deal with. And two, we were both sick and we were like, yeah, we can't do this.
Yeah,
so, but we're back.
Bad. I was hacking up a lung. Work was thought I had COVID, and I was like, I do not have COVID. I actually tested negative. Then I got everybody in my household sick. Then Yussef got sick, and everybody and their mother got sick. I ended up having a Halloween party. Yussef didn't come. I'm throwing him under the bus and all that stuff. But yeah,
guess I was too sick. I'm like, unless you want me to get everybody sick and cough all over people, sure, why not?
I actually held it sick, and I didn't get anybody sick.
No, I was just I could barely do anything.
I mean, I'm not trying to be irresponsible. Sorry. That sounded really bad. Anyway, I actually wore a mask, or if not, I didn't actually stay around people too long at my own party because I was trying to prepare other stuff, but I was barely around people. So I let everybody else touch the food first, then I would get whatever. So nobody got sick, thankfully. It's just my fiance, but obviously fiance is significant other. You can't help that. But other than that, it's that's their doing. They could have just told me, "Ew, cooties, get the fuck away from me." It's a fact. But they chose their own grave. I'm like, all right, here we go. 2 weeks of sickness. Here we go. So it's whatever. But either way, didn't get anybody sick. Wasn't trying to be responsible, whatever.
Yeah.
But to my knowledge, Teddy and Kyle were fine. There's the first name drop, and everything else immediately.
We should have just a counter. We gotta have a counter at this point.
Sick. Yeah, I just have a counter.
Kyle has been name dropped 38 times at this point. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but we all had so much fun and all that stuff. I wish Cece made it, but I know that she was also going through some stuff as well.
Yeah.
Sick. I think sick wise, because she got bit up by bugs,
we were talking. That's why we couldn't make it. We were talking to each other about it. We were she was like, I got super bit up and I'm sick, and I'm like, I'm sick too. This sucks.
Yeah. But it was still a fun time. But either way, I wasn't trying to be responsible. It was irresponsible, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But either way, we were both sick. It was the hurricane kind of fucked us up. And especially flooding and everything else. But we did have really nice weather, so that was really nice.
Yeah, that post-hurricane weather, those 4 or 5 days were just perfect weather. And I was like, I wish we had this all the time.
Yeah.
It was so nice out.
It's kind of taking all our humidity and just shoving it.
Fuck that humidity, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, we got kind of sidetracked.
Well, we're doing a little catch-up stuff.
It was actually... the quote was actually from the Munsters, if you guys haven't, kind of caught on to that. So we are talking about actually Rob Zombie's The Munsters, which he actually recreated, rebooted, that kind of thing, whatever you want to call it. And
he prequelized it.
He prequelized it, whatever. But he actually, did a, kind of reboot, revival of the original Munsters, if you guys didn't actually grow up with it. And it's a fun time, but I'll go into that in a bit.
Yeah.
So it's actually really cool because we're actually into spooky season, Halloween. So all the movies are actually coming out, and there's also some movies that actually already came out, like Smile. We have Halloween coming out in 4 days. Halloween ends. There's a lot going on. So it's literally here, guys. The spooky season is here. We're already in the middle of October. So there's a lot going on. So
Yeah. Before we get into that too, I want to just like talk a little bit about like just some like random horror news that are kind of happening. The big one I think being just how amazing Terrifier 2 has been doing in the box office.
don't talk to me about that. Y'all didn't invite me.
Shut up. You were probably, I don't know who, if they didn't invite you or not. I was invited like last minute. But box office wise, like for an indie film, this thing is doing amazing. Like it's already on track. Or I think it's already made like 1.2 million, which is great for an indie film with like such a low budget and like such a different type of horror movie. Yeah, I went to see it last Saturday, and we did a whole like double feature. We went to see Trick or Treat first, and then we saw Terrifier 2. And oh my god, Terrifier 2 is something else. Like that movie was just like I've seen a lot of tweets about people being like, oh, people fainting, people throwing up, but I'm like, I can see why. But me being a gorehound, I was like, this is awesome. Like I was just like, oh yeah, like the entire time.
That's fair.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a great time. I'm glad it's doing really well. Like everybody that was in that movie was just incredible, and there's already, I don't want to say too much, but there's a lot of hints that we're gonna expand on the story. We're gonna get more of it, and I'm like, hell yeah, give me more. I want more.
I'm excited. So honestly, I think I saw Terrifier on Netflix at first.
That's where I saw it too.
So basically, I'm hoping that they drop it on Netflix sometime soon because I would very much love to see it. But it would have been better to see it in theaters, right? I also thought about watching Trick or Treat as well because I've never seen it in theaters. This is when Netflix first got their first streaming service, and literally, like, I didn't. The thing is, like, Trick or Treat became such one of my favorite like horror films ever that I didn't think it was gonna blow up the way it did. So like the fact that we just have like all these indie films or like stuff getting like, I guess, this glow up
this
within,
better
like,
exposure, really.
Better exposure. It's exciting, but also terrifying as well because it's like everybody's like, oh, like I've never seen this movie before. Oh, it's great. Let me, like it just blows up and that everybody's like a fan of it. But I mean, obviously not gatekeeping, but in a way, it's just kind of like you should familiarize yourself. If you're not already a horror geek like me and Yussef, you are familiar with even like the most weirdest of fucking indie films that are out there.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been
especially within the horror realm. Also, by the way, this weekend, if you guys are listening to this on the week of October 9th? Well,
if you're listening to this, period.
We're actually in October 12th. So if this releases tomorrow, like predicted, there's actually a horror film festival going on at the Ethiopian. So there's going to be indie films and also other films that are going to be featured. So if you guys are interested in that to start off your spooky season, please head over to the NZN at Winter Park, and they're going to have all kinds of like indie horror films showing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wish I had the time to do all this kind of stuff, man. Like, it's overwhelming how much there is to do for this season, honestly.
Yeah, I have a wedding. I can't go, but I really want to go. I mean, I want to promote it just for those people who like, hey, if you haven't caught on to the most cultist like thing right now, like it's basically like Trick or Treat was almost like a cult favorite, and then it just blew up.
It's just blowing
Terrifier also was something that only a very few people liked. Well, not a very few people. I guess it kind of just blew up to be like another cult classic. And it was indie, and then it blew up. Go into your nearest horror theater and just watch indie films, horror indie films made from all over the world, and it just blows up. Like,
yeah, like I've been doing this thing now where I try to watch like one horror movie a day in October, and I've seen like I'm honestly just going through Shudder mostly. And a couple of things on Peacock, just because like Peacock has some like random weird stuff in there every once in a while, and they have a lot of the classic Universal Monster stuff. Oh, I know. I've been sharing my Peacock with like a bunch of people because I'm like, people need to watch this.
Yussef is like, who the fuck is watching Bride of Frankenstein and Bride of Chucky?
I'm over here. I'm over here. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, I'm pretty sure that was Vania watching Bride of Chucky.
Hi.
No, I've been like
introduced
pimping out my
Beyonce
Peacock.
to my crazy shit. Like, yeah.
I've been over here like pimping my Peacock account.
Anyway,
um,
we all love
yeah.
a horror nerd, and we all love people who share their Peacock with their premium. So, hi, how are you? Hi, thank you for your donation. Anyway,
But yeah, I've
so,
been seeing some like random stuff that I've never seen before. Like I saw this movie called, I think it was called like 100 Murder Lane or something like that. It was like one
yeah.
of those found footage movies, and I was like, it's not bad. Um, I saw Black Roses for the first time, which was just like I saw it on Red Letter Media on YouTube once. And it's one of those like it's so bad it's funny movies.
Yeah.
Kind of like your Rem Lazar type crap. Hey, I have not mentioned Rem Lazar in like months. It's been a
Please
while.
don't look it up, y'all.
Look it up.
I mean, I support I don't support Rem Lazar. Sorry, I support indie films. Not that.
All hail Lazar. All hail Lazar.
Anyway,
But I've
we're
seen
still getting
that.
sidetracked. But please support your local theater, especially during the indie films.
Mm.
Go watch other things, especially Terrifier, and if it's still available in your theater.
Well, yeah, it got extended to another
run.
weekend. It got extended to this next weekend, so it's great that it did. I'm excited for that. I'm happy that people are gonna get a chance to see it. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff coming out. I mean, like Vania said earlier, Halloween Ends comes out this weekend, and I'm so hyped up for that.
Yeah,
I cannot wait to see that.
And you know what's crazy is that, I mean, this is also really unrelated. Hi, we're supposed to talk about the Munsters, but we're talking about other things.
We're doing like an introduction type thing.
Anyway, so Halloween Horror Nights obviously happened, right? Halloween in 1978, 3, I forget. I always mix those things around, even though it's like technically like an 8 cut in half. Either way, if you guys haven't gone to HHN through the Halloween house, there's a lot of people wearing ghost merch at HHN this year. A lot. As I noticed, because if you guys haven't noticed that Ghost actually released a song for Halloween Kills called Hunter's Moon. There is a theatrical version. So I've been seeing a lot of people wearing their ghost merch and all that stuff. So, like, I like the fact that that's also a thing, and there's like more awareness for Ghost now, especially nowadays with like Mariana Cross and whatnot. But either way, the fact that with the more franchises and music that comes out for these very popular franchises like Halloween, Chucky, maybe with their series and that kind of thing, there's a lot more exposure for other mainstream artists, not mainstream artists, but I guess. On top of the cult favorites, it just keeps growing, expanding into like the realm of media that we know of the horror genre and Halloween. So, like, the fact that we're gonna get Halloween Ends, I just wonder who's gonna be like the next featured like band that's gonna be on there.
Which I love. I miss when bands and artists used to do that, like where they would make songs specifically for movies. Like the whole like Celine Dion thing for Titanic, or, like stuff like that. I miss those days because they don't do it often anymore.
Yeah,
and it was like it was so cool because I was like,
fucking like Halloween Kills was like my favorite.
Yeah, that was fun.
Chef's fucking kiss, and my little vinyl is like the tiny one, so it's like, but it's so cute. I love it, and it's orange and it's so good. Whatever, but either way, Halloween. I'm excited. Michael Myers. Like this is it, guys. Like. Hold on, wait. We can't say this is it. Like, this is it. How
do you mean?
To the entire series.
I mean, yeah, I think this is gonna be like the end of an era when it comes to like Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie, because I know she's like said multiple times that this is definitely the end of her run as Laurie. And she said, "Hey, I don't like the franchise may or may not continue, but I'm done. Like I'm retiring from Laurie. Like this is this is the ending that I've wanted for Laurie, and this is the ending she deserves. Like that's what she's been saying. So we'll see."
Yeah, I hope it's something good, but I love Jamie Lee Curtis. She's a fucking legend. She's a daughter of a legend.
I love this TikTok I've seen of her where it's like this guy during Horror Nights Hollywood where he got for a podcast that he got interviewed and he's like, "Oh, if you could have one horror character or like horror slasher or something like that in your podcast to interview, who would it be?" and he said, "Oh, I'd love to have Jason at the," and this is at the red carpet for Horror Nights in Hollywood, and Jamie Lee Curtis just comes out of nowhere, and he's like, she's like, Jason, you're gonna have like the entire time it's just her going, Jason. I love her so much. We have gotten severely sidetracked.
Yeah, completely sidetracked. Sorry,
But
one, for Halloween.
There's one last thing I'm going to mention.
Munsters!
Wait, there's one last thing we're going to mention, and then that's it. Waxwork Records. Again, they're going straight for a bunch of people's wallets. This Friday of this week, when we're recording this, they are dropping the soundtrack to Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, made by Danny Elfman. Which is an amazing Tim Burton film, and I love the soundtrack for it, and I just like, come on, Waxwork, stop this, please. Like, you're gonna bleed me dry.
I already have the Bride of Frankenstein one, that's all I needed.
They keep dropping stuff, and I'm like, stop, because I want to get the Munster soundtrack, I want to get the Us soundtrack, and I'm just like, please, make it stop. My wallet can't take it.
But yes, if you guys are also a fan of Sleepy Hollow, please. I only watched it once. I guess I don't remember a lot of it, but I will rewatch it. It was a good film. I don't complain about it. If I haven't complained about it, that means I liked it. But anyways, we're gonna
to the Munsters
because we got it exactly sidetracked horribly. But hi, welcome to spooky season. Happy Halloween, guys. Kind of, sort of, in a way. But hi, so. Rob Zombie recreated the Munsters. If you guys haven't grown up with it, we have Eddie Monster. We have
Herman, Lily,
and all that kind of stuff.
Grandpa, but in this one they don't call him Grandpa; they just call him the Count. So I think, I'm not sure, is this the most child friendly, I guess, like, or family oriented movie we've ever discussed on the podcast? Because I know we did that one episode on like gateway, like kid friendly horror, but like we didn't delve too deep into anything.
Yeah.
So I think this might be like the least disturbing or creepy movie we've ever discussed.
Right.
But I fucking love this movie.
I have mixed feelings. I am a debate.
Okay.
I am a whole debate. I do admit there is a lot of good. There's a lot of good. But unfortunately the very core is bad. How about that?
Jesus.
The very core is bad.
Okay, we'll get to we'll delve into that in a little bit deeper. Because I know I'm curious to see what your thoughts on that are. Because between us, that's going to be a hot take for me, and I'm like, oh god, I'm going to fight.
We'll see. But anyway,
I got my fist.
We're going to go into this episode, we are going to go into the things that we liked, and there's nothing wrong to go that route, because we got very sidetracked with our spooky plans and shit. But anyway, we are here to discuss the Munsters, Rob Zombie. If you guys are familiar with Rob Zombie's work, he's done Devil's Rejects. Well, obviously, first of all, House of a Thousand Corpses. Let's not forget about that. Let's talk about Devil's Rejects. Wait, what was it? No, Three from Hell.
Three from Hell is the third one in that trilogy. Yeah.
Okay, Devil's Rejects, then Three from Hell. There we go.
Yeah.
And then
he did the Halloween remake.
Yeah, of course. There's
Lords of Salem, 31. He's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and honestly, I will say through a lot of Rob Zombie's work, most of it is very good. Especially since the House of a Thousand Corpses does incorporate a lot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre influences, and I guess with that whole trilogy of the House of a Thousand Corpses with Three from Hell and Devil's Rejects, they're all kind of like connected in some kind of way, because hillbillies and being stranded in the middle of the woods, a bunch of friends doing weird shit and just getting killed is just a typical norm.
Yeah. For
a stereotypical horror film. It's low budget, it's effective, and creepy shit happens. But either way. But Rob Zombie is also an artist, if you guys don't know. I'm sure a lot of you guys know who Rob Zombie
Yeah.
is. If you're not, please look him up. Please educate yourself. Get into Dracula. Dig to the witches and burn to the. It's just,
Dig through burn
slam
through
in the
some
back of
witches,
my
dig through some
Dracula.
dishes.
Like, please. Like,
Slam in the back of a Dracula, people. Come on, do it.
yes, please.
It's fun.
It is very fun.
Um,
But we're here discussing the latest work.
which is just like his most different work, is all of his previous movies have been like redneck people yelling at each other, F-bombs being dropped like crazy, crazy violent, like just insane stuff. And this is like a 180 for him, where it's like a completely different movie. It's very like family friendly. It's very lighthearted. It's more of a comedy than anything. So it was really interesting to see him take on a different type of project with this.
Of course. I mean, it is a definitely different vibe. So I thought it was very interesting that he wanted to take on a project such as this.
I'm happy that he did, because he's gone on record. Him and Sherry Moon have gone on record as being like extreme Munsters fan,
Yeah.
and that's like a passion project for him. So that's why he was like so into it, because that is like something that he's very passionate about, something that he's a huge fan of. And like you could tell how excited he was about making it through his Instagram, where he kept posting like stuff from behind the scenes, and like, oh, like here's Mockingbird Lane, here's Jeff Daniel Phillips in his makeup, here's Sherry Moon in her makeup, like here's all these sets that we've built. Like you could tell that he was super excited about it, and like he was just like, this is a passion project, this is something I've been wanting to make for a long time, and I finally had the chance to do it.
We'll see.
I'm saying, no, like,
Anyways.
what I'm saying is, like, whether you like it or hate the movie, you can tell that it's something that he was really, really passionate about making.
Of course. That's definitely one of the points. But I honestly want to go first, because I know that you probably have a lot more I guess intake and more positive note.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get mine out of the way.
Okay. Well,
Because,
before we get
like,
into that, we really got to probably say, like, a little bit of, like, background stuff of, like, who's in the movie and that kind of stuff. So, obviously, Sherry Moon Zombie's in the movie, because she's in every one of his movies.
Right.
Jeff Daniel Phillips plays Herman, and he's been in other of his projects too. I think he was in 3 from Hell, he was in Halloween 2, he was in Lords of Salem in 31. I think he might have been in something else, I can't remember. And Daniel Roebuck, which was great too. I think this is his first Rob Zombie movie. And he plays Grandpa, or the Count in this case.
Right.
And there are I in the doc that we made, I did put another character in there, but that's because I want to reference him later when we talk a little bit more about the plot. But the movie itself is more of a prequel, because in the original series it was Grandpa Munster, Herman, Lily, their son Eddie, and Marilyn, which I think was like a distant cousin that was like normal. She wasn't like them. And this one, there's no Eddie Munster, there's no Marilyn. This is more of how Herman and Lily met. And it's very much kind of like a whole thing of like, oh, they're in love, and the dad is like, I don't like this guy, like, I want to get rid of him, that type of thing. So it's a different take on the Munsters. I feel like it still has like the essence of it, but I'm not going to delve too deep, because I know you want to go first, so I'll let you do that.
Yeah, sure. So, very much like Yussef said, it's very much how Herman and Lily met, and all this other stuff. First of all, the thing that a lot of things that I want to give Rob Zombie is the fact that this production was beautiful. The lighting was everything, especially with the purples and the greens, but it like described such of the, I guess, how do I want to say this? It's kind of like I don't want to say, well, I guess I could actually say it. I don't know how to describe it in a way, but in a way, like, it matches it so perfectly. Okay, so Alice in Wonderland meets Tim Burton. What it's his work, but it's Tim Burton-esque. It's like creepy, but Alice in Wonderland was so vibrant.
But like, it's like creepy but lighthearted, I think.
Lighthearted.
Yeah.
So it had a lot of purples and greens. It had a lot of yellow. And the costumes were so vibrant and so like elegant that I was just like, oh my god, like this is great. Like there's so like going on, like especially like you can tell so much about a character's taste the way that like the way that their persona as a creature embodies so much.
Hmm.
Like Lily Monster was very fashionable, but she was also very slender, very sleek, very like calm, whatever. While we have Herman. Herman was very like depending on his mood, especially with his I guess superstar abilities in a way.
Which
Was
I
like
really want to talk
was
about.
like I'm simple, but then I can be like like Elvis, and then I'm gonna be like this and whatever. And he has so many looks that it was like yes, serve, 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 serve.
It was a
So I
fashion
was like,
show.
it was a whole fashion show for me. I was like, this is great. The sets were so Tim Burton-esque that I felt like I was watching Corpse Bride mixed with Alice in Wonderland.
Okay.
And I'm like, Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is a very good idea.
It definitely has a Beetlejuice like feel to it.
Beetlejuice vibe. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, another thing that impressed me about this production was the fact that it had such a, I guess, such a lightheartedness, and the fact that there were things, not serious things that were talked about, that there was like some creepy subjects that I guess in Adam's family they kind of found like dry humor. This was more
Hmm.
like a lighthearted humor, and like like you just saw like so much going on, and you kind of understand the world that they live in,
Yeah.
and like you just I guess the fact that the only thing that confused me was the fact that the world that Lily Munster and Herman and everybody else live in so differently that it just felt normal to be a monster. That was just like, all right, well, like it was very weird. But either way, I really liked the production design. I really liked the music. I liked the whole lingo that it went through, and like just the entire production visually.
Okay.
Visually, it was very beautiful. I enjoyed the route that it took. It was a very elaborate thing that I was just like, if I could watch the monsters in color, this is it.
Hmm.
So like there was just a lot, and the fact that they were able to capture the visuals of the monsters very well is actually very cool that Rob Zombie, because Rob Zombie has always worked with really weird lighting
Hmm.
and color, and the fact that this was not too crazy, but you understood where it was going in a setting, stage wise, production wise, it was very good. Especially with the cow and Lily Monster and Herman. Those were the three that I was very impressed with the most. Lily and Herman, because Herman like went through so many outfits. I'm like, dude, how many more outfits can you go through? Like I was like, it's great, and then, just it was very weird, but I genuinely enjoyed that part of the movie.
Okay.
Especially the beginnings of Lily Monster and her, for sure.
Okay. There's when it comes to those positives, I definitely agree with you. From a visual standpoint, this is definitely Rob Zombie's most colorful film. Because in a lot of his movies, he does use, outside of House of a Thousand Corpses, that has more of a bright, vibrant color palette. His other movies tend to be very like realistic-ish lighting with like dark colors and browns and then some like tans and yellows. It's very stark coloring
Mm.
compared to something like the Munsters and like House of a Thousand Corpses that use these like vibrant color palettes that throw some blues, throw some purple, some green, some red. Like it really mixes it up with color wise. Um, and again, based on that too, what I felt like with costume design and like makeup looks and everything, um, it felt very cartoony and like comic bookish with like these really bright makeup looks. Like it's easy, Herman is like this really nice, like vibrant green. Lily like exuded purple and blues like beautifully, and the Count was just like bright blue, and I thought he looked amazing. Um, and again, from like a cinematography standpoint too, I loved the little things that they added on there that reminded me a little bit of Creepshow. Like in certain scenes, like when Lily sees Herman for the first time on TV and she like immediately falls in love, like that one scene where like the camera's just facing right in front of her,
Yeah.
and she has like there's like just a dark background behind her and just like a little hearts everywhere, and that kind of stuff. I thought that was really, really fun. And like the same scene with Richard Brake when he turns, when he brings Herman to life, similar, like with like little lightning bolts everywhere. I thought that was really, really cool, really interesting. Just from like that lighting standpoint and production design wise, the sets, they felt very much like sitcom sets. Like they didn't feel, they almost didn't feel like real places.
Like,
they
also,
felt
like the dining scene where she was going out with that other dude,
Mhm.
and like she was looking at the other couple, like, oh, like I wish I had that, and I was like, oh my god, but like, why does this make sense? Like, it's so weird. Like, I loved it so much. Like, especially like when like that Nosferatu looking dude was like went into this whole rave scene, and I was like, why does that work?
Yeah.
Like, it's great, but I loved it so much.
Mhm.
Like, there was like a lightheartedness to this film that
Yeah.
you can definitely get behind.
And I liked when when like the overall vibe kind of changed of the movie when they left Transylvania to move to Hollywood. I love how it was like day and night when it came to the look and feel of everything. Like it was just completely different. And I honestly wasn't expecting them to go that 60s route because everything before then had been like neon signs on like places in Transylvania and kind of like techno music like you said with that Count Orlok and like that. So I was like, okay, so Transylvania is like the city of the future apparently because they have all these crazy things, and then you go to the 60s in Hollywood and you're like, whoa, this is completely different now.
Right.
So that was really cool, I think, in terms of that. But I want to see what other things you thought in terms of like, did you have any other positives or did you have more other negatives and that kind of stuff? I want to see what else you thought.
Oh, I definitely enjoyed the aspects of some of the lighthearted scenes in this film, especially with when Lily Munster falls in love and with Herman. And especially like he tries to go through so many transitions to try to impress her and like, try to like I guess give her a life and because he kind of doesn't exactly know where he comes from kind of thing. And like
he didn't even
he's
know his own name. Like he
his
had to
own
get
name. He's
named.
just kind of like, oh, like what is my name? And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, whatever. And like they just come up with a name for him. And I was like, all
Call him
right.
Herman.
And then he's like, oh, like I think I'm gonna get a job to sustain us. And they're like, they're like, wait, what? Like this is so weird. But I definitely enjoyed the lightheartedness that this movie provides, and the fact that it was so like it's a fun film to watch, and like the aspect of like where Lily and Herman started, I guess. But yeah, there's just there's a lot of pros. The production was the thing that impressed me the most. The lighting, the fucking costumes, the makeup was everything. I was like, this is fucking great. I like this. This is visually beautiful for your eyes. It's pleasant to look at cinematography wise, and it comes from a very sitcom visual, like you said.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's just so much creativity that happens here, but content-wise, I have something other.
All right.
Yeah.
So before we do that, I kind of want to talk about performances and how like acting-wise.
Right.
Because I thought everybody was like living it up. They were like, no matter what character was in there, I thought they were just like doing their best. Like right off the bat, I want to talk about Richard Brake because he's awesome. I'm a huge fan of Richard Brake. I think he was great as the Doctor, like the one that creates Herman. I loved how he was kind of like, oh, I'm a gentleman with like that slight British accent, but he was also such a dick to Floop, like his Igor. And I'm like, he is so sassy. And again, Floop was even sassier. Floop was like, I don't give a fuck. I wrote it on, like, that whole thing was like, I wrote it in my hand, I think. Right. Like, I thought that was great. And I love that he was also Count Orlok. Like, I think Count Orlok was my favorite side character. Because he is, like, like, the worst date ever. I love that, where he's like, oh, like, he's eating, like a disgusting pig. And when he's like, "Oh, have you look at all these pictures of my rats, like my pet rats," and it's just like the most cringy pictures of like him like smiling with his like rat on his shoulder and that kind of stuff.
So cute though.
And I absolutely love that little detail in one of the newspapers where they're like, "Oh, Counterlock died or like died because of his rats, like his rats like ate him up or something, or like they killed him."
Jeez.
I'm like, death by like he loved them so much, but they killed him. And I'm like that. I don't know why I found that so funny.
It was cute though.
Yeah.
I was like, I like that scene too.
And then Sherry Moon as Lily. Oh my god. I think this might be my favorite performance of hers outside of Baby and Devil's Rejects. Because it was just, I love how she played it with like the hands always up, like very Disney princessy type like movements. And her voice was so different with like that little like shakiness and like a little bit deeper that she added to it. I don't know why, I just thought it was really good. And Herman though, he was my favorite character in the whole movie because the man was nothing but dad jokes. And I love that it was dad jokes and also just like this super like confident persona of like, oh yeah, I'll move to Hollywood, I'll be a star. I mean look at me, I'm sexy. Like I love that whole aspect of him being like, oh yeah, I'm like the sexiest thing alive.
It's a confidence. That's the
His confidence, yes, it was great. I think like the Count, he was more of like just a typical character. There wasn't anything like too outside of the box with him. He was definitely just like, oh, the overprotective dad, like, oh, I don't want you dating this idiot type thing. And like outside of that, he didn't really do a whole lot else.
Right.
But like outside of that, I think all the characters were really fun.
I thought all the characters were fun in their own right, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I saw your face when I mentioned Sherry Moon as Lily, and I'm like, what happened? Why did you make that face?
I guess this is where the part where we go into the this like, right. I guess this is the part. This is the part, right?
I guess so.
All right.
Are we about to divide?
Hi, my name is Vania. Hi, I'm Vania, or a cultist. B, whatever you guys want to call me. Whichever name. So hi, how are you? So literally, I love this. This is a very fun film. Like when there's a really fun film you really like, but everybody and their mother doesn't like it.
Yeah.
This is very much it. I mean, so I'm gonna go straight out and say it. The Munsters. This remake, reboot, whatever you want to call it. It's fun, and it had the production, it had the budget, it had the costumes, it had everything, but it did not have the essence of the Munsters for me.
Okay.
It did not. I was just.
I'm curious as to like what about it to you was missing in terms of like that. What do you mean by the essence?
It's the quirkiness of the 70s that was missing. They were just trying to reach it so far to the modern audience.
Okay.
That it just tried very hard to like reach towards a new audience, because I know that Rob Zombie, from a director's perspective, was trying to make it modern to drive more.
So I think it was made to make to make it a little bit more accessible.
So, but like everybody that I have talked to, I've seen it myself. It's missing the very essence of the Munsters, the quirkiness, the cheesy 70s vibe. It just felt too modern for me to get behind.
Okay.
So with Sherry Moon's performance, I'm not against it, but it felt too mature for her to, not too mature, I guess a little bit too overdramatic for Sherry Moon, because with the previous actresses, it felt very, I guess, natural for the way that they were, and of course she had the. You felt like maybe she was
okay. You felt like maybe she was like trying too hard.
Trying too hard. Okay. Because I know that she wanted to embody that role so much for herself, and she wanted so much to be Lily, and like I get it.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong. Like if you told me to be Bride of Chucky or like whatever, I'm like,
You'd be like, let me ham it up, you
yeah,
know?
they had it up.
Yeah.
But everybody else is their own. I mean, not their own worst critic, but there's other people that are gonna think
Hmm.
otherwise because you wanted to play that role because there's a preference within the
Okay.
production, scenery, especially when you're such a fan. Um, but yeah, it's
Ooh,
just like
excuse
I
me.
felt like it was missing the very essence. You know what was the very essence of Monsters was towards the end. The
When
end
they get to it, yeah.
when they actually get to it, I'm like, where was this the entire time? Like, it's like this could have been great if we started right. I mean, if we started like this, and then flashbacks of how they met, I
Hmm.
would have gotten behind it.
Okay.
I was like,
I, I
okay,
I see what you
like
mean.
I get it. And then they probably had some flashbacks, and we understand from where they come from, because I guess I think it would have been a very interesting take in film in cinematography if we went from black in the past it was colorful, and because that was a point of life to them, kind of thing. So like I very don't get me wrong, I very much enjoyed especially Herman's
Yeah.
performance. It was I kind of got behind it. I was like, hey, like
I
this
stand
is
for
stupid,
Herman.
but it works. But like from a modern audience that is trying to watch this from a perspective from the 70s and the
Hmm.
60s, you're just kind of like, shit, like where's everything else that we know from Herman, rather than like, that him like trying too hard to make Lillian fall in love with him and the Count and all this other stuff. So like, and the thing is like, I guess I felt like it went too forward the minute that they bought the house and they went to that Halloween party and they kind of confessed like, "Hey, like, like we kind of live here now and trying to make money, and we're like this, they're like this fascinated like goth like Adam's family, like family friendly knockoff kind of thing, I guess, if you want to call it that, whatever.
No, they are not an Adams Family knockoff.
Not,
Stop it.
but not like that. You know what I mean? But it's like, they're quirky. They like their little spooky stuff. They like things that normal people don't like,
Hmm.
and which is why I call them that. Like, I'm not saying it from an Adams Family knockoff, but it's like, like we like spooky stuff. We like the abnormal. We like the things that are unusual to us, to other people. That's why that person that was trying to sell them the house, they're like, this is perfect. They're like, ew, what the
Ew,
fuck?
this is
Like,
garbage. What are you trying to pull?
I would have done the same shit. I was like, ew, what the fuck? No, this one. But, like, I guess towards the end, that was the essence I was looking for.
Okay.
And I was like, and I was just like, fuck, like, all 2 hours and for what? Like, it was like, I feel like I didn't watch the monster. I mean, not that didn't feel like I watched the monsters. I just felt like it could have been done backwards in a way. Like, I guess,
Okay.
like, like
Hmm.
the past would have been colorful. Them, going from the monsters with the black and white, the very opening that we know, that kind of thing, and just everything else. I mean, Eddie Munster didn't need to be present, and
Hmm.
everything else didn't need to be present. It's just the fact that we can be introduced into such a way that they're like, oh, like, or whatever they want into, like, I guess, tell their story of how they moved into the neighborhood, that kind of thing. But I just felt like it just wanted to relate so much to the modern crowd that it got lost. And eventually, my dad, who is a hardcore, my dad is a hardcore Munsters fan. He was the one that introduced me to that shit. He was like, yeah, I feel like they got lost because he was so like invested. He's like, eventually, I just kind of dozed off and just kind of went
Disassociated.
another direction, like disassociate, because it there's so much happening at once that it didn't need to go as far as it did,
Okay.
in a way. I mean, I'm not saying it. I'm not completely dissing Monsters. I just have very mixed feelings about it. It's cinematography beautiful. The costumes beautiful. The acting was good. Was great actually. It's just I guess some people were just trying too hard because they wanted to do the character justice, which I don't blame them for the choice that they
Hmm.
did. in a way, like Sherry Moon or whatnot. Like Herman did embody Herman, but it was just too modern to try to make it relatable to a more modern audience rather than just sticking to what's there, because the people who watch this movie are gonna be hardcore Monsters fans,
Okay.
and people who are hardcore Rob Zombie fans, because they know that Rob Zombie can do so much and do so much better. He directs all his music videos and his movies, but then it's like this is like a huge reboot flop in my opinion.
Damn.
In my opinion,
See, I completely
it's not
disagree.
completely bad.
I completely disagree because, like, for me, the point of a reboot isn't to just make the exact same thing again, because that's just boring to me. For me, it's like, okay, take something that's existing and put your own stamp on it and change it up enough to where it's a little bit, just different enough where people can enjoy it in a different way. And that's what I felt like he did here. I actually, however, like, felt some of that campiness, especially with Herman, because Herman was very much like, kind of like, he was almost like an Elvis Presley type character.
I
Where he
mean,
was like, he's like,
that
I'm this, like,
mentioned-
suave rock star that can, like, get all the ladies, and, like, he was, but at the same time, he is just, like, the dumbest, like, he's like child, he's essentially a child, because you can say he was born yesterday,
Yeah.
so he doesn't know any better. And, like,
Right.
that innocence is what's interesting, because, like, it's weird for him to, like, mix that innocence, but also this, like, extreme confidence that is completely out of place with him, because he doesn't really have that much of a talent,
Okay.
which I thought was really funny. But, yeah, I feel like it still had, for me, like, that just, like, weird, quirky attitude. It was just presented in a different way. And that's where I think that maybe for you it might have differed too much, and for your dad it might have differed a little too much, like strayed too far from the source material. But I was okay with it. I was like, I like that Rob Zombie's like doing his own, putting his own stamp on it, doing like his version of it. It's a little bit modern. Some of the modern stuff I didn't like the whole kind of like Tinder thing with the dating. That was a little out of place. Um, but outside of that, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I loved the kind of like the clothing vibe of it, because it felt kind of like some of Lily's dresses were very like kind of hippie-ish with like the really flowing robes and everything, and a lot of Herman's clothes were also like kind of stylish like that, with his like rockabilly outfit with like this leather jacket and like the goggles on and like the Dracula hat and everything. So that's where I feel like it was like quirky enough and like different enough that it didn't I was kind of like I kind of liked about like that about it, where it wasn't just here's the monsters that you already know, like, because I feel like that would have been like, okay, so he didn't do anything different, so it's just him making it's just him making a really long episode of the monsters.
It's not that. It's just like I know that we eliminated Eddie and like some of the characters,
Which I think they
this
did on
is like
purpose.
the it's like the meeting of Lily or Herman or what already exists, but try to go back into almost like a prequel. And I wouldn't have mind if it picked up that way.
Okay.
And so like, but if you just kind of start from like scratch, and honestly, I would have really liked that essence a lot more. Like that's something that's very different. If you go from colorful, vibrant production kind of thing to represent the present, and then you go to the past to black and white. That's obviously something we've all seen before.
I guess I feel like at the same time though, like if he was gonna do a reboot and he just does like how they met through flashbacks, what would you have done for the present stuff?
You would have done the black and white because that's
No, I mean like as a story from a story perspective.
Well, you would have like, I guess not progressed, but like done something completely that's like not different, but it's like it still follows within that time frame, but it still adds on more stuff that we may not have ever seen from the monsters, rather than something
like,
that
what
we
do you
have already
mean?
seen.
But like, what do you mean
Like,
that would be something that you would not have seen?
for example, like they do like references from not references from the shows, but something that was referenced in the show at some point, but they do it like older, or like they just do other things differently. I don't I don't know, something within that side. I would have liked to see an Eddie Munster and all that stuff, but obviously that would have been a bonus for me anyway. But because I feel like Rob Zombie was meant more for the adults, so this is more like it should be more adult oriented. But it's just the fact that I don't know. I felt like Herman and Lily felt so young and so childish in a way.
Well, I think that for me was kind of the point, though.
Was like,
because the show itself was lighthearted. Because especially Herman in the original show, he was kind of like just like a goofy guy. Like he wasn't anything too serious.
Right.
So and then like going back to Eddie Munster, I think the reason he's not really in it is because like Rob was hoping that it would do well enough where he could probably do a sequel maybe, and then introduce like some of the other characters from the show, because I think he's trying to build like
brother a werewolf. Wouldn't that be fucked up?
I mean, yeah, but it's the Munsters. Who gives a shit? I mean, I'm okay with that. I don't, because I think it's whatever. But I just like that I just appreciate.
He's kind of like a vampire. He's a Frankenstein. We give birth to a werewolf with my brother.
I mean, look at the show. That still didn't make sense. The original show, it still didn't make any type of sense whatsoever.
Well, yeah, but the fact that we didn't see the brother as much in the original thing.
I mean, yeah, he's barely in this movie, really. He only has like maybe 10 minutes of screen time, and that's like pushing it.
But they made it such a big deal, though.
I just like that it was like, okay, we're meeting for the first time. We're trying to set up our new family. So like, Herman's like, oh, I gotta figure out a way to provide, and he is not as intelligent, so that's why he falls for that scam.
Fair.
So I appreciated that, and I like that I thought it was an interesting way for them to kind of build up to the Munsters that you know and love, because like we've already seen the Munsters, but like they're like, what I wanted to see is how do they get there? Like how do they become that?
Yeah.
So that's why I appreciated it.
Right.
Yeah. But I believe this is a good time to stop like right here, because I think it's time we got into some grave robbing facts.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
So we will catch you guys here in just a second, so stick around.
So hi guys, we're here in our grave robbing facts, where we talk about anything that has to go behind the scenes between the haunt or a movie or a TV show that we might be talking about within this podcast. So we're actually discussing Rob Zombie's The Munsters. So these are our 10 grave robbing facts of The Munsters.
All right, so yeah, starting off with number 1, the Munsters teaser trailer is actually a shot-by-shot remake of the Munsters title sequence. So, like, if you put them side by side, they're the exact same thing, just with the newer actors and a little nicer looking, with like digital cameras and everything like that. But exact same opening. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I actually didn't realize that.
So, what is our next grave robbing fact?
Our second grave robbing fact is that Rob Zombie and Sherry Moon, by the way, they're a couple. Wink.
Oh, I wonder why her name is Sherry Moon Zombie.
Sherry Moon Zombie. Anyway, are huge fans of the Munsters. Of the 1964 Zombie recorded a commentary for Blu-ray release of Munsters Go Home and named one of his songs after Grandpa Munster's race, Dragula.
Yep. I mean, I also love that it was there at the Rob Zombie Scare Zone. Like, they had the Dragula. Thought that was really cool.
Hell yeah.
But number 3, the character Bella, who is there's Zoya, the gypsy that's got like control over the Wolfman, over the brother. Her assistant, his name is Bella, which is obviously a nod to Bela Lugosi, who also played a gypsy named Bella in the original Wolfman back in 1941.
Hell yeah.
So I like that little nod to him. We love the respect for Bella.
Hell yeah. All right, fourth. grave robbing fact is that when Lester the werewolf is brought to Zoya Krupp in the movie's opening scene, she refers to him as punitively as Wolf Wolf, which was the name of Eddie Werewolf's doll in the Munsters 1964. Oh, that's
Yeah.
kind of cute.
I want to talk about real quick. I sort of liked Lester, the brother. I
Yeah,
liked his vibe because it was very like 70s like disco king type thing. He was like, "Hey,
right.
baby, slime me some soul." Like he was kind of like that character. Like I love
Yeah.
that scene when he asked Herman to sign the papers. And he's like, "You gotta like curve to learn how to swerve" or something like that. And I'm like, I don't know why I thought that was like really funny.
That's a modern thing, but
No, but I mean like the way he says it. Like he's like, "Come on, baby, you gotta learn how to curve so you can swerve." It
right.
felt like very like 70s to me.
Fair.
Yeah. But our number 5 grave robbing fact. This is Rob Zombie's first movie to not be rated R.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That's surprising. That's
Every one of
actually
his previous movies was rated R. This is PG. I do like that there are like little hints, like little like kind of adultish jokes, like the whole thing with Igor and the Count when he's like, "Oh yeah," the Count's like, "Igor, I don't think I can take you with me when we move to California. Like, I just don't think I have the space for you." And Igor's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll work for Lord Grimsby. He needs a new pool boy." And the Count goes, "You do know that Grimsby doesn't have a pool." So I'm over here like, "Oh my god, he's looking for a boy toy." I'm like, that was a
Oh,
fun little extended joke that they put in there.
yeah.
It's like Shrek. Like Shrek is PG, but it still has those adult jokes in there, or like Cat in the Hat.
Yeah, 100%. I was like, how do
Which
people get away
which I like when
with it?
PG movies put those things in there because it isn't just like, oh, here's a fart joke or like here's people falling down. It's got like
Yeah.
little hidden and stuff that like adults would appreciate. But anyway, our next grave robbing fact, Vania.
Our next grave robbing fact is that Rob Zombie shot the film with a high-end color scheme, which obviously I admired so much.
Oh, same.
Obviously. And then I noticed when the actors were in their makeup, they were just walking around and getting lunch or whatever. They look like cartoon characters come to life. They were just so insanely colorful that I had to light the movie in the same fashion. It just seemed at all times a live action cartoon, which was really exciting. I mean,
I think he definitely nailed that of like a cartoon version of everything.
yeah, it just seemed like one of those very old timey like cartoons with like, just with the characters walking around the way that they act and all that stuff. But, in the same essence of like, a very classic
Hmm.
cartoon, especially for like an October Halloween special.
Yeah. So, number 7, real estate agent Barbara Carr is played by Cassandra Peterson, who is best known for portraying Halloween icon Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, which I
Yeah.
love. I love when he adds, like, all these, like, kind of cult horror figures.
Yeah.
Like, in that little scene when they're doing, like, a news report, I think it's when they're talking about... I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was a news report, and the news reporter is Dee Wallace, the mom from E.T., and the mom from Cujo, which I love. I guess I love that she shows up in like some of his movies. I think she was actually Laurie's mom in the Halloween remake too, if I
uh,
remember correctly. So I like that he likes. Something I always appreciated about Zombie. Like he always likes to work with the same people. I think that really helps with like getting like the camaraderie of shooting a film together and like people feeding off of each other and their performances and stuff like that. Like it's something I've always admired about him.
yeah, it's definitely one of those things that he's just comfortable with working with the same amount of group of people
Hmm.
because they know how the expectations and what he's expecting overall.
Yeah, same as John Carpenter when he used to work with Laurie Strode for a bit, and he did the same thing with Kurt Russell. Like, I think it's something that like when they build that relationship, it really helps the movies that they're making.
Of course. So, especially for a little bit, let's talk about like the fact that she's like, "Oh, I tend to dress very extreme," and then Lily Munster is like, "Oh, what do you mean?" And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, you dress extreme, madam." Like, well, she does, but
Mm. Well, like extreme as in like serving up the looks.
Yeah, serving up the
Serving up
look.
extreme looks. That's what it is.
She actually didn't go that far, which is funny.
Yeah,
because
I will say that was
irony in a way.
that was a bit of a letdown. I kind of wanted more of like that flowy, like colorful
Oh,
look to her, because
yeah,
they really only gave her maybe like what, like two different costume changes, like the swimsuit look when they're in that penal colony, and then the like other costume that she has when they're doing like the "You Got I Got You Babe" song, like with like the
yeah,
hippie clothes.
yeah.
Which is probably like one of the only things I don't like about the movie. I feel like that was too cringe for me,
Right,
especially because like out of nowhere Herman had like the long hair and the mustache. I'm like, what the fuck was that?
right.
Like I would have been okay if it was just them two with like their regular looks, but I'm like,
Yeah.
why put in a mustache for him and like the long like beetle type hair?
Right.
Anyway,
So our eighth grade robbing fact is, in addition to his credited roles, Daniel Roebuck appears as one of the Parisians dining at the cafe where Herman and Lily visit. So it's super cute.
yeah. So the count is maybe the count was always watching them, making sure they weren't up to messing around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Lily Munster and Herman were always old enough. Obviously, the actors were, but
Well, yeah, I think
in
it
the
was more
essence
of
of
like
the
the disapproving
character,
dad thing. Like it doesn't matter what
yeah,
age they were. Like the dad would have always been disapproving, type thing.
right.
Yeah. But our ninth grave robbing fact: original Munsters actors Butch Patrick, who played Eddie, and Pat Priest. I don't remember who Pat Priest is. Oh, played Marilyn. Oh, she played Marilyn. Okay. So Butch Patrick, who played Eddie in the original series, is the voice of the Tin Can Man, and Pat, who played Marilyn in the original series, is the voice of the Transylvania Airlines announcer.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Which I gotta say, I loved drunk Herman in the airplane, and all the people just like left, and they just left him in first
Yeah.
class, and they're just like living
And
the
he's
life
like,
of
oh, this
luxury.
is great. I'm like, this is Shirley Temple. Oh,
Oh, I don't know
sorry.
why that was so funny, especially when they had to like carry him out of the plane when they landed,
And
because he
I'm
was
like,
just
that did not
just
have
gone.
a very ounce of alcohol, though.
I don't know why. That was just funny to me.
It was. I mean, it was for me too. But our last grave robbing fact is that Daniel Roebuck is a longtime fan of the Munsters and owned a Herman Munster doll, and that was signed by Fred Gwynn when they worked together on the film Disorganized Crime. And he also mailed out the lips
Lewis,
through a friend. See, this is why I shouldn't do
the British accent. That's
accents.
why it. See,
The
you see
British
what
accent.
happens?
Fuck you. Basically,
Piss off.
I like to add a little bit of flavor, especially when
You
I'm
gotta do
doing
it the
the
British way. You gotta say
podcast.
piss off.
And then you gotta piss off,
It's Tuesday, isn't it?
It is actually, in fact, Wednesday, my dudes. Ah! Anyway, either way. So I think that's super cool. The fact that he was a
Yeah.
super long time, like fan of the Munsters and owns a Herman Munster doll. I wish I can actually get original Munsters merch, but like I'm pretty sure they're all going
They're
for a lot of money on
super
eBay.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't blame whoever owns that kind of money, but here we are.
Yep.
So
But yeah, those were our grave robbing facts for the Munsters. There's some really cool stuff. I did like that he included a lot of references to the original show, and that he managed to get some of the actors of the original show to do like small parts in there. So I appreciated that. And again, it's something that where you can tell that like the people involved were fans of the Munsters. That's why they enjoyed the movie so much. Like they enjoyed making the movie so much.
yeah.
So yeah, appreciated that. But
Yeah.
that's the end of our grave robbing facts. So it's time to get back to our regularly scheduled programming. And welcome back to our discussion on Rob Zombie's The Munsters. We don't really have a whole lot of other stuff to say. We kind of got into that little discussion for a bit, which is really nice. I liked showing different viewpoints on the film and that kind of stuff. I think we should probably talk about something that's just a little bit different, because we don't really talk a lot about this often when it comes to our movies. But that's the soundtrack.
Right.
The soundtrack, which was a Rob Zombie collaboration with this guy Zeus, who's they've collaborated on other stuff before. I think they did Lords of Salem and Three from Hell together. They might have done other stuff too. I think 31. Right. But that's also really different too. It felt very like Halloween type score to it.
Definitely very like whimsical in a way.
Yes, it was very. It sounded like Danny Elfman, but like different enough where you could tell it was not Danny Elfman.
Right.
I
will agree on this for you, but yeah.
And then like the original music, like Herman's rockabilly song, was really fun when it's literally like him just playing guitar and then saying a dad joke and then like playing guitar again.
Yeah, that was really cute.
Like I love that one joke that's like my father was a ladder and he left when I was young and that's why I have a step ladder.
Oh no.
Oh man, and I can't remember which joke it was, but I like love the little scream he makes after it. He's like so sexy.
Yeah, but like just the fact that Herman Munster was like super like a dad joke.
His character was just like so vibrant and like such a big personality. I think that's what I liked about it.
Yeah,
like that one little scene.
I just felt like there's it just in the original Munsters, Herman just standed for someone that's so different. Like, and like being acknowledged that they're different and being like, like it being encouraged because you're different, not because you look like everybody else or you just sound like everybody else or look like everybody else. I don't know. I felt like it was missing from this character, but I did enjoy the essence of this character as a whole because I guess this is where the beginning starts.
Yeah, and like I said, I
progressed a little bit more.
Really enjoyed his childish personality, like that scene when they like truly meet for the first time, and like they're having like that small conversation, and Lily's like, "Oh, I'd love to have you over for dinner." Then he's all suave. He's like, "Oh yeah, I gotta check my schedule to see if I'm available." And then she closes the door, and you're like, "Hermie's got a date. Hermie's got a date." And then he opens. He's like, "Yeah, I think I can squeeze you in." With like, I love that he's wearing like the bathrobe and like he's got glasses on and everything.
Yeah, it was super cute though.
Yeah, I thought it because I just like really like the love story aspect of it. I thought it was really cute and like really like they were kind of goals because I was like I wish I could like go on a honeymoon with somebody and do spooky stuff like that.
Yeah,
like when they go into the sewers and just take a sewer monster as a pet.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, Paris is great. Like nobody bothers us," and it's because everybody's terrified of them.
Yeah, right. They're just like, "Oh, like there's a monster running around. Let's go check it out." Wait, what?
And they're like little horror montages, like them at the beach of a prison instead of like a normal beach.
Yeah.
Of like it was almost something like, "Oh yeah, let's go to Alcatraz and we'll vacation at Alcatraz."
Exactly.
And I'm like, that is so adorable to me. Yeah. But is there anything else that you would like to talk about when it comes to the Munsters?
It's a very, when you just have like a very guilty pleasure just for the sake of visual movies. At least for me, if you're like a hardcore Munsters fan, this will piss you off. But if you just enjoy visually the art of cinematography and what it meant, you just have to go with the open mind that it will be different. That kind of thing. Like I said, I don't completely hate this movie. I don't. It's like the production was beautiful. The acting was great. I mean, some of it felt a little bit over the top. Cherry Moon.
It was, but I think it was supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be like over the top and really campy.
Yeah, but like I felt like Lily Munster, like in the original, was not even that over the top. But regardless, I enjoyed seeing where everything went, the production wise, everything that came with it. It just felt like it just related to a very modern audience. And not very modern audience. I guess it was just like 70s trying to like reach out and be like, hey, by the way, we're still a thing. Please acknowledge that we
Hello,
exist.
hello, fellow young people type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I
Like
think.
it's like a gateway horror to them someone like Googling it and they're like, oh, you're telling me this existed before. Let me actually go hop into it more
Mhm.
wherever I can find it to stream it, whether it be like on anywhere that's like originated in like
Yeah.
another platform. To understand more of like classic. It's like someone trying to make a reboot of I Dream of Jeannie, which
Hmm.
obviously I think there hasn't been like I Dream of Jeannie,
Well, there
and
was,
like
yeah, that, well, no, no,
try
not
to
a
do
dream.
it
No, that was Bewitched. That they made that stupid movie with Nicole Kidman and Will Ferrell. Not I Dream of
right,
Jeannie.
but it's like trying to ruin the very essence. But at the same time, they're just trying to like, hey, by the way, I exist. You should just try the original,
Hmm.
and like But at the same time, like I can't be completely mad at it. Like I said, the production within itself was impressive to me, and it
Okay.
was very entertaining visually. It was aesthetically beautiful. It felt like I was in a Tim Burton Beetlejuice world, where the dead is so colorful and the fucking living is just so boring and bland and like they're the interesting people in this fucking like world of the
Yeah,
living
it's funny too
kind of
because like when they move over to Hollywood, the look of the neighborhood kind of reminded me of Edward Scissorhands too.
right,
That like kind of
yeah.
like perfect cookie cutter neighborhood.
Yeah, instead of like everything being so
Everything was
colorful.
pastel colors. Jesus.
But the essence of the monsters for me personally, it might not be for you, Seth, for me personally, is lost in translation for this movie. I felt like they could have, like, I guess, taken it a little bit more of a notch. I don't know where, but I just feel like something is missing where they could have actually brought the monsters to life. Where I felt like I was watching more modern take, but other people have different opinions. But
Hmm.
production wise, very beautiful. I say a 6 out of 10.
Okay. Um. Yeah.
So
For those of you that are listening, clearly I like this film a lot more than Vanya did. In terms of like, again, I definitely agree that it was aesthetically beautiful from a technical standpoint. It was really well made, color wise, costume design wise. I thought the acting was really fun. I really enjoyed it. Um, and again, I felt like part of that essence was there. Obviously, it was a different type of like showing the essence. Um, I think like my only issue with it was like the plot because there really wasn't much of a story outside of just like Herman and Lily falling in
it
love.
just felt like a just an introductory story.
Yeah, at the same time, it felt like a sitcom episode because like a sitcom isn't really supposed to have like ridiculously expanded stories.
A beginning conflict and an end kind
Yeah,
of thing.
exactly, and it had that because it had like the beginning, which is them falling in love, the conflict, which is him signing all their money away and having to move to Hollywood, and then like you have your resolution, which is, hey, I went to Vegas, I made a whole ton of money. Here's your cut, and it's like we're rich.
Right.
But yeah, overall I enjoyed it. I definitely, I mean, I bought the physical media because I enjoy it that much, and I'm a fan of having physical media. So I would have to give I give this one an 8 out of 10.
All right. Seems solid
Yeah.
coming from you. I thought he was gonna give it a 9.
No, 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 no. There are still some things that I found like I said outside of the plot not being super in depth, but there were still like a couple of cringy scenes that I was like, they were a little too silly for my taste.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, outside of that, I thought it was a lot of fun. So yeah, it's an 8 out of 10 for me. 8 out of 10 hate stones.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the end of our discussion on the Munsters. We would love to know what other people thought. So please, after this episode drops, like reach out to us because I really want to talk more about this with other people too.
Me too, because I feel like I got a lot more negative reviews on my end of the spectrum, while probably yours has a lot more positives.
Hmm.
For me, I literally, the first time it came out, the first day it came out, people were like, "This movie sucks." I was like, "Oh my god! Like, do I
Which is
even have to
hilarious
tap
because I was
out?"
like,
I was like,
everybody I saw was like, this movie is pure camp and I love it. And I was like, good, that's what I wanted. I wanted a campy, like, fun movie. And I feel like that's what we
I
got.
guess my end of the spectrum was like fucking hardcore Monsters fan. Well, on the other spectrum's like, this was great, and I was like, I don't know what to expect. But like I
Yeah.
said,
At the same time, that's kind of the fun part of those types of movies that are divisive enough, or like people, obviously without being like mean to each other or like insulting each other, but like having that discussion as to like why they didn't like it and why they did like it. Like that for me is part of the fun of that type of movie, like movie like
right?
that. Like something like Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills was very polarizing. Some people loved it, some people absolutely hated it. And it happens, and I appreciate when that sort of thing happens because I love to see when people disagree and that kind of stuff and have these big debates about it.
Right.
Because I think it's interesting to see like both sides of it. It's like, oh, like why did you hate this or why did you love this?
Right.
So I'm kind of glad that we both had like differing looks on it because I thought it was more fun to debate it that way.
Yeah, that's why I was trying so hard not to say at first why I hated it. I was like, I'm gonna try so hard because I'm gonna surprise people because, like, the thing is, like, my dad was raised upon Munsters,
Hmm.
and like, and then he showed it to me. Then this was like something we were really excited to see together, and it was like me and my dad were like, this was visually great, but this was very boring. Like,
Oh wow.
this is not the monsters that we know, but like I said, there's some people who like the campy stuff, like
Hmm.
you. There's for us that we were like, oh, we hated it, but I mean, we can be civil. I mean, there's a lot of things to like about it. I
Yeah.
will say that there's a lot of things to like
Yeah.
about it. You
Because for me, I
cannot
was like,
fully hate this movie.
yeah, because like the thing for me is like
I like the
while I
show.
was sitting there watching it, I just had a smile on my face. I was like, this just makes me feel good because it isn't,
Yeah,
when they first announced this, I was a little bit afraid. I was like, oh, Rob Zombie, please do not make this a gritty, like exploitation horror movie. That is
yeah,
not what the Munsters is about. Now, I was so happy that he went the campy direction
right.
and like the family friendly direction. I was like, oh, thank God. Because years and years ago, I think it was like 2007 or 2008, they tried to make a new version of the Munsters called 1313 Mockingbird Lane, and it was supposed
Yeah,
to be grittier. Like even like Herman didn't even look like Frankenstein. He just looked like somebody that had like a couple scars and like stitches, and that was it.
yikes.
And I was like, I don't like that at all. And it didn't even make it past the pilot episode. I was like, oh, thank God.
Oof.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the end of our discussion on this. So I think it's time for us to call it a night or call it a day whenever you're listening to this, whatever. But before we leave, we got to do our housekeeping. So we'll start with you, Vania. Where can we find you?
You can find me under Twitter or YouTube under HHN Cultist, where I basically trash talk. Not, I don't trash talk, sorry. I don't trash talk. I literally just discuss anything that's going on within the horror community. This is haunts. This is theme parks, but most importantly, this is HHN. And during the Christmas time, I turn into a whole completely other monster, literally and quite not literally at both times of the day. I turn into HHN, not HHN, sorry, Krampus Cultist, which basically I discuss a lot of the Christmas lore of horror and that kind of thing. But just trying to keep up with things within the horror community, within Universal, or just any hot aspect that exists within the Florida community, because that's only as far as I can go. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter and on YouTube under HHN Cultist, but there's other people more interesting than me
No. Shut
on
up.
this podcast. Where can we find you, Yusuf?
Yes. So, for my personal stuff, you can find me on Instagram at Yusuf1220 and on my Twitter at itbeyusuf. Um, I mostly just shit post on Twitter. I just post stupid shit. And then for our podcast, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Sounds from the Grave. And then we also have our email, soundsfromthegravepodcast@gmail.com. And our podcasts, we're on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, like everywhere pretty much. And also, don't forget about our TeePublic. We finally have some merch out. We have some stickers and 2 different shirt designs. I'm trying to see if I can create or kind of something that I really want to start doing when it comes to our merch, and I think that's something that's going to be really fun and collaborative with other people. Is I want to reach out to some of the artists that we have in our Twitter, like our little Twitter community, and like collaborate with them and like come up with some concepts for some really cool merch, and like just really not only, you know, us have merch, but really get their name out there and help them out and have them, you know, like have them be creative and just like do fun stuff.
Basically put out their concepts of horror in
Exactly.
their own way, whether it be zombies or
Mm-hmm.
us and slashers or
Yeah.
whatever that concept may be. Anything that has to do with gravestone skeletons, corpses, and all that shit.
Exactly.
It's
Like
gonna be coming up in a way, or just whatever else shit talking Kyle. It's all gonna happen. Like literally, like guys, just please support us on our
yeah,
people.
and
Like we only we're only such a small little thing, but we do it out of love, for the love of horror, for the love of Halloween, and for the love of literally just anything that has to do with the spookies and the creepies. So
spookies and the creepies. I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I love collaborating with artists. Because for example, our podcast logo was was made by an artist that we both know, by Angie. She was amazing. She's super talented, really really cool. And then our Twitter banner and our YouTube banner was made by a super old friend of mine, Luis. You can find him on Twitter at Drawn to Mischief. He's amazing as well. I love his cartoony style, and I love how he drew both of us. It was great. Um, so yeah, there's that, and also support our fellow podcasting friends. We have really really cool people that we're friends with that also podcasts. So
See you at the movies and Trick or Treaters podcast.
yes. So yeah, follow our friend Cece at See You at the Movies, or See You at, because I think she does a lot more pop culture now, which I think is really cool. There's the Trick or Treaters podcast, so I don't know if they're still doing episodes. I haven't heard anything recently. And also a special shout out to this podcast that I became like super quick friends with these guys, Voices from the Beyond. They're really really cool. They do a lot of fun stuff with their podcast too. They're like the nicest people. They're so wholesome. So give them a follow too, and like check out their stuff. They're awesome. But yeah, that's all we got for you guys tonight. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. Thanks so much for supporting us. We will catch you, I can't remember what I used to say now. But anyway,
You have a good day or a good night, and I hope you
yes,
guys stay spooky.
stay spooky, everybody.